Hello, my name is Marc Zaldivar, and I am currently the Director of Curriculum and Assessment for NLI at Virginia Tech. NLI stands for the Network Learning Initiatives, which is our professional development unit within the Division of IT. One of my previous jobs, I helped to support ePortfolio development across the institution at Virginia Tech. So today I'd like to talk to you about ePortfolios as a catalyst for learning from student to institution. I want to talk a little bit about how research around ePortfolios shows that when you add them into the mix of already rich educational experiences, you catalyze learning in some pretty significant ways for both students and faculty in the institution.
Never knowing where to begin with this topic, I'd like to take us way back, long before the internet and digital work became ubiquitous in education. Portfolios have been seen as a powerful assessment tool in educational contexts for decades. This passage from the NEA is one of my favorite classic definitions, as it points out what are, for me, key elements of an ePortfolio. 1. A student's choice of work. 2. Clearly established criteria for assessment. And 3. An important role for student reflection within the portfolio. In most of my own portfolio development, these were always important design considerations. Central questions included: what work would the student include? Can the student choose the work freely, or are they being told what to put in exactly? Are they aware of the evaluation criteria? Are they able to tell you what they learned from the project? Projects that favored student choice, that created a strong role for the student's reflective voice, were often the most successful projects. Curating a collection of work products alongside a narrative about the learning that occurred created a powerful object for assessment. Typically, these were bound notebooks or early websites with work displayed. But as the digital environment evolved, so did the concept of portfolios, until this definition in my mind doesn't quite fit. So ultimately, for me, ePortfolio isn't really a thing, it's something that we do. It's a process, a way of thinking, and a way of practicing that discipline of thinking. Seeing outcomes like these as actions and a series of interactions around a learning experience changes my personal notion of ePortfolio. Parts of ePortfolios are certainly objects: websites, images, video, text, presentations, and PDFs. But what really makes an ePortfolio a powerful transformational tool is its ability to do things. If we look at this simple chart of ePortfolio processes, we can see how many learning actions are really encompassed in the ePortfolio process. Though the outcome may be a website or bound notebook, the process of creating the portfolio, and most importantly, the assessment processes around that portfolio, is where the real catalyzing learning happens. And a catalyst is a powerful metaphor for ePortfolios. This catalyst model was the result of a 3-year U.S. federal grant, where we gathered 25 institutions together to explore implementation challenges and models, successes and failures, over a 3-year period. I was lucky enough to be with a group of fellow Virginia Tech colleagues to represent VT in this effort. This model works very well as a process definition. It centers on the agents who will be using the portfolio: students and faculty, departments and programs, institutions. Surrounding the model are 3 key processes that seem to inform all effective ePortfolio practice: inquiry, or the ability to ask and pursue answers to good questions; reflection, or the ability to process deeply; and integration, or the ability to tie different experiences and ideas together into an effective learning network. There are 5 major arenas of play that, when in place, make programs most successful. Ultimately, as a catalyst metaphor, the notion is that ePortfolios go a long way to enhancing already effective educational practices. When placed in conjunction with other high-impact practices and effective instruction, ePortfolio approaches show a greatly enhanced learning experience for students. Catalysts enhance change, and change is the very definition of learning. One example of this change on the institutional level is what Randy Bass of Georgetown University describes as a rise of social pedagogies in higher education. These are pedagogies that place authentic experiences at the center of the curriculum, and where the learning is done through social interaction, often with professionals in the field of practice or with peers in learning groups. A common example of this is a capstone course, where students often work in teams or to build real-world projects that are appropriate to their disciplines. Or service learning courses, where students contribute their intellectual and physical work to improving local communities. In these examples, the learning is not simply measured with a multiple-choice exam or with a research paper. The whole notion of assessment of learning, of how we provide feedback to the student to encourage learning, and of how the instructor and the institution learn and improve the curriculum based upon the student's work. That changes into something richer, more useful, and more pertinent to both the students and the institution when an ePortfolio is added. Consider how ePortfolios embody a social pedagogy approach. In an ePortfolio, students are literally being asked to construct a representation of their learning, often being encouraged to include prior learning experiences and extracurricular and non-disciplinary interests. In arranging artifacts, such as writing samples, presentations, and other work, alongside reflections, they are weaving a strong narrative about their own learning paths. Then, instructors, in being able to assess those individual students, have a much richer set of learning data to draw from, especially for more complex, authentic situations. In those situations, outcomes such as leadership, teamwork, and critical decision-making become important and are much more visible through portfolio work rather than typical tests and essays. Finally, as the institution gathers more and more of this portfolio-based evidence, programs and colleges are able to see the nuances of their own students and their interaction with the curriculum. And it all begins by having the students be involved in assessment and engaged with their learning. Here's just one example of the kind of research data that the Catalyst grant was able to capture. This particular graph demonstrates that the ePortfolio is far beyond an object. It is itself a site of learning. When ePortfolios have low peer-to-peer interaction, in other words, when the instructor and the student are the only people to see the portfolio, only about 30% of the respondents indicate that the portfolio was useful in thinking deeply about their work, or making them more aware of their learning and development, or helping them make connections in their studies. However, when you allow students to share their portfolios with other students, when it becomes a social component of the curriculum, and students regularly are asked to share their own research and reflections, the results more than doubled to the 80% range or above. This tells me that students want to tell their stories of learning to each other, and that ePortfolios, when designed and implemented well, help them do that. Here's a quote from Crystal Beach, voicing this idea as a student. For her, the ePortfolio space was where she tied it all together. The practice and the research, the pedagogy and the experiences in the classroom. The ePortfolio she created became a realm, which seems so much grander of a word than space. It becomes a realm of learning, reflecting, and applying. And that's what makes ePortfolios such a powerful catalyst for learning. Ultimately, portfolios, like any good pedagogical approach, become a balancing act between the instruction the teacher puts forth, the learning that the student does, and the assessment that provides feedback and growth to the whole system. If we build quality programs around the portfolio process, we can make new kinds of learning visible. ePortfolios become the site of that learning and knowledge, rather than just a dumping ground or filing cabinet for work at the end of the process. ePortfolios can make student learning visible to the faculty in the institution. Likewise, they also reveal institutional criteria and priorities to students, making the assessment itself more visible and productive for everyone. And finally, if done correctly, ePortfolios encourage deep learning skills, ones that we hope develop in all learners, and that, if handled correctly, become visible sources of learning data for everyone. That data tells our shared learning story.
Thank you again for letting me present today. This, of course, is a big topic to cover in 10 minutes, and so I thought I'd provide you with a few extra resources to close things out. The top 3 links are related to the Catalyst for Learning research sites. The top 2 are recent books that were published that cover both case studies and the theory of the Catalyst for ePortfolios. And the third one is the Catalyst for Learning website itself, which has many of the case studies, research, and information available to you for all of the 25 participating institutions. The bottom 3 sites here are worldwide ePortfolio organizations. I know we all draw from these on almost a daily basis as we look for peers that are working on portfolios, as well as current resources and conferences that are available for us to share our stories. Thank you again, and I hope you join us on the road to ePortfolios. Have a good day.